So let's continue our project. In the part 1, we have started to make a simple lighting system because it could come really handy once we modeled everything from scratch for the textures and the UV edits. Then we wrapped everything up by learning a really cool trick on how to take our lighting system to the next level, which was so insane. So if you are new here, definitely check the part 1 because here we are going to continue what we have started. And let's start with adding a 3D model car. If you want to use the one that I'm using, the link to download it will be in the description. It comes as a blend file and it is also rigged. So open the blend file. Here you can see the car. Press A to select everything, then press Ctrl C to copy. And if you have the copy attributes add-on enabled, after pressing Ctrl C, you also need to press Copy Objects. Now return to our main project. Press Ctrl V to paste the selected objects. Don't touch anything, press the / key to isolate the selected objects. With them selected, press M to move them into a new collection and call it Porsche. Let's select the car rig and move it aside a little bit like so. And here you can see that there are some bone widgets. They come with the rig, but they are not necessary at all. So we can select all of these, then press M, move them into a new collection and call it Hide. Then in the outliner, hide the Hide collection, as the name says. Now we can select the car rig, press Alt G to clear the rotation. Then press the / key again to exit the isolation mode. Press numpad 7 to go into top view. Let's move the car over here. Then we can also press R and type down 180 to rotate it like so for the time being, just to have a better look at it. Now we can switch into rendered view to take a look at its material. It already looks pretty cool, but if we take a closer look at it, we can see that this car material doesn't have that much of a reflection of the environment or the sky. It looks pretty fine, but why not making it better? I have made a pretty decent and realistic car paint material, which is absolutely worth adding it into our scene, and it is going to make it much better. And in the final render of this project, I used the same car paint that I just mentioned for the both cars. And to be honest, the material of this car is not good at all. It looks good and real because we have made a pretty decent environment and a good lighting system. And if it wasn't for them, this car wouldn't look that much real for the time being. The material is available for you to download. The link will be in the description. It comes as a blend file. After downloading, now to add it into our scene, go to File and choose Append. Then navigate to where you have downloaded the blend file. Here you can see the blend file. So double click to open it. Then open the material collection and here is our car paint material. Select it and then click on Append. Now to be able to use the material, hold down the Shift key and right click here to bring the 3D cursor over here. Then Shift A in the mesh, add a plane. With the plane selected, head over to the materials panel, then open the existing materials drop-down menu and here search for car paint, which is this one. So click on it to add it into our plane. And here you can see our car paint material. If we take a closer look, you can see how cool it looks. I mean, when we take a look at it, especially speaking about the reflections, it looks exactly like the car paint of a real car. So now open a new window here and switch it into shader editor. And this is the car paint material. I have set the node setup into a group. So we can select the group and if we press tab, we can enter the group. And here is the node setup. The point is we don't need to do anything here. So press tab again to exit the group. What we should do is something like this. We need to combine this car paint material with the basic material of the car. Because if we select the car body and from here choose the car paint, we actually lose the main material, the basic material of the car, and this won't work. So select the plane and make sure the group is selected. Press Ctrl C to copy the group. Then select the car body and here is the basic material of the car, which includes 3 different maps: the base color, metallic roughness, and the normal map. We only need to keep the base color. So keep this one and delete the rest of them. Then over here, press Ctrl V to paste the group. To combine these two together, on the base color map, we have the color output. So plug it both into the base color and the Fresnel color. Then finally, plug the group into the material output. Now this is what I was talking about. So let's get over here and then zoom in to take a closer look. Just see how much detail this Carpaint adds into our car. And now our car has much more reflections. I mean, we can absolutely see the reflection of the environment and the sky. I mean the HDRI. And if you ask me, now we can call this car a realistic one. Next up, let's learn how to add a PNG logo on the car. And within this process, you will learn a bunch of great methods. And I'm going to use this PNG logo. And by saying PNG, I mean it doesn't have background. So if I select it and move it over here, you can see this PNG logo doesn't have any background. And this is pretty necessary. So to add it into our car, we can simply drag it over into Blender and drop it in the shader editor like so. Then let me make some room over here. So this is the base color map and this is the PNG logo map. We should combine these two together, and for that we can take advantage of the mix color node. So add it and leave it on mix. It works pretty fine. Then hold down the shift key and right click together and drag across these connection lines to make a reroute point. Then drop the mix color after the base color. And make sure the base color is plugged into the A input. So let me move it up a little bit. Then exactly like what we did in the part 1 for the logo on the back glass, plug the color output into the B input on the mix color. Then plug the alpha channel into the factor. Now we have the logo on the car, but it is not working properly at all. That's because the UV edit of the car body is not adjusted for the PNG logo map. To understand it better, let's go to the UV editing panel. Switch the right window into render view. In the UV editor tab, you can see the logo has been applied to so many different parts of the car. That's the reason of this weird look that we have right now on this car. And if you want to adjust the UV, see what happens. We messed up the UV of the basic material of the car. And to fix that, we should make a new UV map for the car body. So let me go back. Then make sure the car body is selected. So if I enable the overlays, we are in the edit mode, but it doesn't matter at all. With the car body selected, go to the object data panel. Here we can see our UV maps. Right now we have the basic UV map of the car. So double click on it and rename it to UV map 1. Then click on the plus icon to make a new UV map. Let's rename it to UV map 2. To stay organized. And keep in mind that this UV map 2 will be dedicated to project the logo on the car. So with the UV map 2 selected, in the UV editor tab, if you don't have the PNG logo here, you can open this drop down menu and here search for the name. Mine is called number 1. So if I select it, I will have it here. First of all, we should make this logo not being repeated for infinite times. But right now it is being repeated infinite times on this car. And if you remember the part 1 of this tutorial, we had the same issue with the logo on the back glass. So to quickly fix that, we can switch the UV editor into shader editor. And here on the PNG logo map, there is a property called repeat. This is the reason that the logo is being repeated infinite times. So if you switch it into clip, now the logo is being projected only once on this car. And this is exactly what we want. Now we can get back to the UV editor. And the next step is to decide where we want this logo to be projected on the car. So let's zoom in a little bit I like to have it over here on the right door, since it is empty and there is no other logo or writing on it. So with the car body selected, press tab to go into edit mode. Then press A to make sure the entire mesh is selected. Then in the UV editor tab, also press A to select all the faces. Press G, X and move them aside so that they are not on the logo. It means that the logo won't be projected on them. Let's come over here, press Alt A to deselect everything. And we can box select these faces over here, because this is where I want to have my logo projected. And if we zoom back in the UV editor, we can see the selected part here. So press G and move them over onto the logo. Then press S to scale them up. Something like that. And something like that will look nice. But nothing has actually changed. That's because the rest of the setting will be in the shader editor. So now we can jump back into object mode and switch the UV editor into shader editor. And to have a better look, we can also disable the overlays. So what we should do now is something like this. We should import these two UV maps into the shader editor so that Blender will understand which one to use for which of these maps. So over here, press Shift A, search for UV map. Add it over here, then from here, pick the UV map 1. And as you can remember, this one was dedicated for the basic material of the car. So plug it into the base color. Then with the UV map selected, press Shift D to make a duplicate of it and then move it up. And this time, pick the UV map 2. This one is dedicated to project the logo on the car. So plug it into the PNG logo map. And there you have it. But as you can already guess, it needs some adjustment. It is rotated. So we can press Shift A and search for the mapping node and place it after the UV map. And in our case, we should rotate it on the Y-axis. So let's set the Y on 180. But you may notice that the logo is gone. And then hold down the Shift key because these values are really sensitive. You should play around with the X location. So hold down the Shift key and we slightly increase that. We can set the logo back in place. And this is exactly what we were looking for. Right now the PNG logo is red. It is the exact same color when I was importing the PNG into the shader editor. So if you want to have something like that, go ahead and use it. But if you want to adjust it more, you can press Shift A, search for hue saturation, which is this one, and place it on the color output, which goes into the B input. Let me put it here. So if we decrease the saturation property, we can make the logo whiter, and 0 means absolute white. If we decrease the value property, we can make it darker, and 0 means absolute black. And if we want to change the color of it, we can play around with the hue property, by the help of which we can get every color that we like. So according to the mood of our scene and the car itself, let's give it a dark gray look. So decrease the value to make it darker, something like this. Then also decrease the saturation to kill the black. Now this looks so cool, doesn't that? It looks insane. This is exactly what we were looking for. Zoom in a little bit and see the reflections over it looks so real. And by the way, on the mapping node, there is the scale property. So if you want to scale it up, because I think it is a little small, select all the axes, hold down the Shift key, and if you decrease the scale, you can increase the size of the logo. And then if needed, hold down the Shift key and adjust it over here. Now this looks much better, and I really wish I had some writings below or beside this logo. It would look much better. But anyway, now you know how it works, and you can add as much as logos and writings on any part of the car. Now we can select this plane, press X to delete it. And let's get to the camera animation part, which is going to be so fun. So the process is like this. We are going to add a song into Blender. Then we define multiple cameras, each of them with animation. And finally we adjust the cameras according to our song. So let's get into it. The song that we are going to use is called Memphis Life. If you want to use the same song, the link to download it will be in the description. After downloading the song, now to add it into our scene, we need the video sequencer panel. So let's get back to layout, switch the right window into 3D viewport, which will be set on the solid view. Set the left window on the rendered view. Press T to close the toolbar menu, disable overlays, open a new window here and switch it into video sequencer, which is this one. Now to add the song, open Add and choose Sound. Then navigate to where you have downloaded the song. Select it and then add sound strip. And here is our song, and we can take a look at it. And by the way, here you can see the waveform of the song, which is pretty handy to have it, especially when we want to find the beats on the song and adjust the cameras with the song. But if you cannot see them, press N to open the side menu. In the strip tab, you should enable display waveform. And let's play the song to hear it. But before that, you're going to hear it from the speaker. If there's any problem or issue with that, I'm really sorry about it. So let's play. This is our song, which matches the atmosphere of our scene perfectly. Now we should decide from which part of the song it should start with. And I want it to start, let me see, somewhere around here. Yeah, it is somewhere around here. But we cannot play it because the ending frame of the timeline is set on 250 as a default. So let's add a 0 to that and make it 2500 for the time being. We can adjust it later. Now let's play to take a look. This part is pretty cool. It looks so insane. So let's select the blade tool and I want to cut it from somewhere around here. Let's zoom in, and if we hover our mouse cursor over here and click, we can cut the song. Choose the selection tool, select this part of the strip, press X to delete that. Let's play to see if it's correct. No, it is not correct. I want it to start somewhere around here. Yeah, it's here. So place the CTI to where you want the song to start, then hover your mouse cursor at the beginning of the strip until it turns into this icon. Then click and drag towards the CTI to somewhere around here. So now if we press play, yeah, this is exactly what we want. Now zoom back a little bit, select the song and move it towards the beginning of the timeline. Then we can zoom in. Now the strip is exactly at the beginning of the timeline. So if you press play, yeah, so this is totally correct. Next up, we should add our first camera. So Shift A to add the first camera. With it selected, press F2, rename it to camera 1. Then press M to move it into a new collection and call it camera as well. Then before framing our camera, we can also adjust the car a little bit. So press numpad 7 to go into top view, select the car rig, press R to rotate it like so until we have a look like this. Of course you can go with your own desired look. So something like that looks nice. For the first shot, I want to have a view like this. So if we press Ctrl Alt and numpad 0, we can frame the camera nicely in place. Then scroll forward to make your view bigger, just to have a better look at our scene. And to have more control over the camera, press N to open the side menu. In the View tab, there is a property here called Camera to View. If we enable that, now we can control the camera using our mouse cursor, which is a pretty handy feature. if you hold down the control key and the mouse scroll together, you can zoom back and zoom in, which is also called the dolly zoom. Then if you hold down the shift key and the mouse scroll, you can have the pan move. Let's adjust the camera. So select the camera 1 and go to the camera panel. Open viewport display and set the passport out on 1, so that we can have much more focus over our framing. Then if we move up a little bit, the focal length of 50 is fine for the first shot. I like that. Then here is a choice that is up to you. Go to the output panel where we have the resolution. If you are happy with the horizontal HD look, then go with it. But if you want to make a render for social media like Instagram, TikTok or YouTube Shorts, you can go for the vertical resolution. And to do that, we only need to switch these numbers. So set the X on 1080 and then Y on 1920. And then over here we can zoom back, or of course we should disable camera to view and zoom back. Then let's adjust our camera. So in the toolbar menu, and if you don't have it open, you can press T to open it. Enable the transform tool. This one is so cool. It has all the tools together. For example, the location, rotation, and also a scale. It is pretty handy. Press numpad 7 to go into top view. And let's move the camera on the X-axis a little bit until we have a look like this. Move it on the Y-axis to get it a little far away from the car. So something like that looks really nice. Now make sure the CTI is at the first frame as it is. Then with the camera selected, press K to make a keyframe for location and rotation. So this is our first keyframe. For the second keyframe, we should take a look at the song to find the beat. So let's play the song. Here, somewhere around here. You can see the waveform. So let's set the CTI over here. It is frame 102. But before making the second keyframe, there is something here which is really important, and that is the frame rate of our scene. So if we go to the output panel, here we have the frame rate which is set on 24 as a default. Well, in 99% of the cases, we use 24 or 30 frames per second. And both of them are perfect. But the important point that I just mentioned is this. Just see that this part has this beat is around frame 102. So if we play, I mean this beat. But if we change our frame rate to 30, take a look at here. See what happens. If I set it on 30, it changes. Now it has gone. Now this beat has gone to frame 126. So before making the adjustment of the camera, decide which frame rate you want to have for your scene. So I choose 30 frames per second. So let's set the CTI at here. So let's set the CTI here, which is frame 126. Then we should move our camera to give it some animation. There are two different ways that we can do that. First is we can use these axes. So for example, we can select the X-axis, move it to the right. Then to zoom in, we can use the Y-axis. Then we can also rotate it a little bit to have something like this. And let's get to the second way. So let me go back to where I was. Over here, make sure the camera to view option is enabled. You can hold down the mouse scroll to adjust the camera like this, and you will get the same effect. And if you want to zoom in, you scroll forward, zoom back, scroll backward. This is totally up to you, but I think something like that looks pretty fine. Now press K again to make another location and rotation keyframes. And here is a very important tip, because this scene has a minimalism aspect to itself, and subsequently the crazy and fast camera animations won't actually work. So now let's play to take a look at what we have. It already looks pretty cool. However, in this type of shots, we should consider one crucial factor. The camera should have a constant speed all over its animation. But right now, if we play, we can see that the camera is slow at the beginning of its pass. Then it gains some speed in the middle of the pass and will be faster. And again at the end it will be slow and it actually stops, which means the camera keyframes are set on Bezier. To fix that, in the timeline press A to select all the keyframes of the camera, then press T to open the keyframes interpolation menu. So as I said, they are set on Bezier, and if we switch them into linear and play, now the camera has a constant speed all over the pass and it looks much better. And yeah, this is exactly what we were looking for. It looks so nice. Then for the second shot, with the camera selected, press Shift D to make a duplicate. Move it to somewhere around here and then rotate it towards the car. Set it here and later we will adjust it. And in the timeline, press A to select its keyframe, then press X to delete the keyframes. Press F2 and rename it to camera 2. Fine, but right now we are watching the scene through the camera 1. If you want to use the camera 2 in the outliner for the camera 2, there is a camera icon here. If you enable that, you can watch through the camera 2. Or let me go back, there is a hotkey for that. Right now camera 1 is the active camera. Make sure the camera 2 is selected, move the mouse cursor over the window that you are watching through the camera. Then if you press Ctrl and numpad 0, it does the same job as this icon. So what we are going to do is something like this. From frame 1 up to frame 126, which is the second keyframe of the camera 1, we want to use the camera 1. And then from frame 127 up to, let's say, frame 200 for example, we want to use the camera 2. For that, we can take advantage of the markers. So select the camera 1 and make sure you are at the first frame. Hover your mouse in the timeline and then press Ctrl B, which will automatically add a marker dedicated to the camera 1. Then select the camera 2 and move to frame 127. And again press Ctrl B. And this is the second marker dedicated to the camera 2. Let's play to take a look. And there it goes. This is a great method to add multiple cameras in one singular scene. Now let's adjust the camera 2. So for the second shot, I like to make my framing over here, somewhere around here, which looks so cool. With the camera 2 selected, press Ctrl, Alt and numpad 0. Then we can adjust the camera like so, something like this. But we are not getting enough details. I mean, the framing is small and it's better to have the entire car visible in this shot. So to fix that, head over to the camera panel where we can tweak the focal length. And if we decrease the focal length, for example, let's set it on 20, we can have a bigger framing. Now simply adjust the camera in place. So let me zoom in. Here seems nice. Then place the CTI at frame 127, where the marker is located. Press K to make a keyframe for location and rotation. And let me enable the screencast key in this window, so that you can see it better. Then we should decide how long the second shot should take. Let's take a look at the sun. And by the way, if you have problems seeing that, you can select the strip, then press G, Y, move it on a higher level like this. Then if you hold down the control key and the mouse scroll and drag, you can enlarge the strip to take a better look. So let's play the song. Here, somewhere around here where there is this bit. Let's go for frame 217. Now simply move your camera to get a different look. Something like this. And don't forget, try to be gentle with a simple slow animation. Yeah, I guess that's enough. So press K to make another keyframe for location and rotation. And as you already know, select the keyframes, press T and set them on linear. Now let's take a look. It looks insane, and not to mention, with this workflow you can add as much cameras as you like. Let's duplicate the second camera, move it to somewhere around here, rename it to camera 3. Make sure to remove its keyframes. Move it to somewhere around here and then rotate it like so. The last keyframe of the camera 2 was frame 217. So move the CTI one frame forward, select the camera 3. In the timeline, press Ctrl B to make a marker for it. For the third shot, let's go for a framing like so. Something like this. So over here, select the car rig, go one frame backward, which is frame 217, and it is the last frame of the camera 2. Press K to make a keyframe for location and rotation. Then move one frame forward, which is the first frame of the camera 3. Press R to rotate the car like so. And then move it over here. Then make another keyframe for it. So this will look something like this. So get over here, and with the camera 3 selected, press Ctrl Alt and numpad 0. For this shot, unlike the shot 2, we should go for a high focal length. Increase it to 95. Then if needed, we can move the camera backward to get a look like this. And by the way, if you have problem selecting the camera, you can go to the object panel, open viewport display and enable in front. Now you can easily select the camera. Now shift right click on top of the car to bring the 3D cursor over here. Then press shift A in the empty at the plane axis. Let's move it down. Then right click, adjust empty display size. Drag your mouse to make it bigger. Press F2 and rename it to camera 3 controller. Then press M to move it to the camera collection. Here you can see that. Select the camera 3, then shift select the empty, press Ctrl P and choose object keep transform. Now this empty controls the movement of the camera. Now go to frame 218. With the empty selected, press K to make a keyframe for location and rotation. Now let's see where to end the shot number 3. So let's play our song. So somewhere around here where there's a beat, frame 273. Go to top view, with the empty selected, press R, hold down the shift key and slightly rotate it to get something like that. I guess I have rotated a lot. So let's go back and do it again. That's enough. Then press K to make another keyframe and set the keyframes on linear. Yeah, nice. Using an empty is another way to animate the cameras. It is especially used when you need to make a circular path for the camera. I mean, if we rotate the empty, you can see the camera is moving in a circular path. It is a really handy feature. To see what it is exactly capable of, this is a really hard and complex project that I have been recently working on. In this project, I tried my best to make a good and nice looking forest environment. I spent a huge amount of time and attention to make it a hyper-realistic version that if anybody takes a look at it, they would just say, this is real. This couldn't be CGI. I'm still working on it and the tutorial of it is underway. It will be soon available on the channel. In that tutorial, I'm not going to teach you how to make this scene, but instead, I'm going to teach you a complete workflow on how to make this scene. And by saying this, I mean after watching this tutorial, you will be able to create any type of forest and jungle environments, since it is going to be an in-depth tutorial. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel to stay tuned. And until then, take care. So for all the shots that you have seen in the final render of this project, I used the same methods as I mentioned in this tutorial. We have covered almost everything except one important factor, which is the depth of field. Let me select the camera and go to the camera panel. Scroll down, here you can see the depth of field. It is really important. Unfortunately, I forgot to use it in the final render of my own project. So you don't forget that, okay? Select the camera and enable depth of field. Then again press Shift A, and this time add a single arrow here. Move it over here and place it on this part of the car. So let's move it down. Here it seems nice. Press F2 and rename it to camera focus. Then press M to move it to the camera collection. Here you can see that. Select the camera, and for the focus object, choose the camera focus, which is the single arrow. Then to control the blurriness, you can tweak the f-stop. So if I set it on 0.1, see what happens. This is the amount of blurriness. So let's set it on 1 to see what we have. Yeah, it looks so cool. The background is blurry, but the car is in focus. And this is totally optional, what number you want to use. So if you increase that, you decrease the amount of blurriness. But I guess a value of 1 works pretty fine, or 1.3 for example. Yeah, this is fine. And for the other cameras, if you ask me, don't animate this one. Instead, make new empties and then set them as focus object for each of the cameras. Because if you want to animate the focus object, there is a high probability that you will get some weird issues. So instead of using this one for all the cameras, add new empties. And the last word is, the project file, like always, is available for you to download. The link will be in the description. And if you like to have a decent render setup for this project and then a good compositing process to get the best out of it, tell me in the comments and I will make a tutorial for that. So see you next time.